This is Mike Davis. Not that Mike Davis. The only white man that ever got me was Mike Davis. You know, I would it's the wrong Mike Davis, but founder and president of Article 3 Project, which apparently is this ridiculous thing behind his head. And it says, look at this. Look at the title of this. This is, by the way, Kevin McCarthy, a creature of the swamp and shouldn't be speaker. Mike Davis on speaker vote. This is, I guess this is the dude that they had on right after or shortly thereafter Marjorie Taylor Greene was, I guess, yammering at Steve Bannon. Let's see.
I want to bring in Mike Davis. Mike, you're a fighter, right?
You look like a fighter. You don't look at all like a middle management dweeb. You don't look at all like someone who was just let go from an insurance firm and just out of camera is holding a file box with all of your knickknacks.
We know that, but in this way, is this walk me through your experience on Capitol Hill with what your perspective is about this fight that's about to take place that, quite frankly, is 12 years, longer than that, but definitely since the Tea Party revolt in 2010. It's 12 years brewing between the populist movement, the American people, the little guy, versus the cartel, sir.
By the way, the cartel is the rhinos in this case. Hilarious.
Well, I was an
By the way, you're watching House Sparks Mega Worldwide. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Give a thumbs up, support the show. If you like supporting, patreon.com/HouseSparks. Thank you to our Patreons, first and foremost, for making the show possible, because you're going to be why I get another mic to replace this one that was popping and cracking and hopefully fixing. So thank you.
Intern for House Speaker Newt Gingrich back in the fall of 1998 during the impeachment proceedings against Bill Clinton. And I remember pretty clearly that Speaker Gingrich was king of the hill one day and out the door the next. And so things can change quickly on the Hill. If you don't deliver as the speaker, you shouldn't be the speaker. It is a
well, there you heard it.
Very powerful position. You essentially
hang on. That part of history is amazing because it's not the 94 revolt. I want you to go through, this is very important, about 98, and they had all the issues about the impeachment. But the 98 midterms didn't come out like they thought. Walk us through what happened to Newt Gingrich in the flash, and then Livingston, his replacement. All of a sudden, Newt Gingrich was the man, and then he wasn't, right? Walk us through that, Mike Davis.
Yeah, please. Everybody at home, feel free to loosen your belt.
Well, what happened was that House Republicans should have picked up House seats in 1998. It was an off-year election with Bill Clinton as president. It should have been a good year for Republicans, and House Republicans ended up losing House seats that year. And so it could have been for the impeachment. I was all for the impeachment. That's the office I worked in, was the Speaker's Policy Office, where they ran the impeachment.
So it was your fault. I'm glad they're having you on.
But it turned out,
by the way, I blame Hillary.
Bad politically, and Speaker Gingrich, who I greatly respect, they turned on him very quickly. And then Livingston was the Speaker designate, and then he had some
I like designate.
Personal issues come out, and then Dennis Hastert came out of nowhere and
boy did he
became the House Speaker.
Yeah. Dennis Hastert, the Republicans didn't like Livingston, so they elected a guy named Dennis Hastert. Now, I don't remember what happened to that guy. Does anybody remember what happened to Dennis Hastert, if I may? Hold on one second. No. Get out of here. Decline. 1 second. Here you go. Oh, yeah. Now I remember. Yeah. The Republicans, in their third choice, after they broomed Newt Gingrich and had this other guy in temporarily, put in this guy, which was, I think, the longest running Republican in House history. Like, he kept the seat for a long time. Hi. Oh, thanks. Look at that. I was brought a smoothie. I must have done something right. Yeah. So this is, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the person that the Republicans thought, you know, I don't like this Newt Gingrich character. He failed to give us enough seats. So let's put in this guy. By the way, open secret among Republicans. Former U.S. House Speaker Dennis Hastert, a man who accused him of child sexual abuse, reached a tentative out-of-court settlement Wednesday over Hastert's refusal to pay the man $1.8 million, the outstanding balance in hush money that the Illinois Republican agreed to pay the man in 2010. Lawyers would not release details of the settlement, arrived at just before a civil trial in the case that was set to start. It would have focused on a novel legal issue about whether Hastert's verbal agreement to pay $3.5 million to buy the silence of a man he abused as a teenager amounted to a legally binding contract. The man has been referred to as James Doe in court papers since the breach of contract lawsuit was filed in 2016 in Illinois and Yorkville, Hastert's hometown, just west of Chicago. The hush money deal would eventually lead to a federal criminal case against Hastert 5 years later and to public disgrace for a GOP stalwart who, for 8 years as House Speaker, was second in line of the succession of the presidency to the presidency. In the federal case, prosecutors said Hastert sexually abused at least 4 male students between the ages of 14 and 17 through his years at Yorkville High School. Hastert was in his 20s and 30s. Federal prosecutors said during criminal proceedings that the hush money deal was voluntarily entered into and that the victim never sought to blackmail Hastert, that he'd go public about the abuse. The abuse happened when the victim was a high school wrestler. What is it with the Republicans and wrestling and sexual abuse? I'd ask Jim Jordan about it, but he looked the other way. And the now 79-year-old Hastert, who was his coach. Just a quick reminder for those who don't remember. And this guy, by the way, supported Hastert for the role.
And then Livingston was the speaker designate, and then he had some personal issues come out, and then Dennis Hastert came out of.
By the way, what fucking personal issues did that guy have that Hastert beat him out for it? And by the way, like I said, open secret about Hastert and his past in the Republican caucus.
Nowhere and became the House Speaker. What I would say about today's current House race is, look, we have a whole different world over the last 3 years.
No, we don't.
Since 2020, when it's no longer the liberal Democrat Party, it's the Marxist left Democrat Party. We saw this with BLM.
Yeah, so because we label them as Marxist lefties and blah, 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 Joe Biden is all of a sudden a radical Leninist. I guess, no. I think Steve Bannon is a radical Leninist. He even says so. I guess that would make Biden a radical Stalinist or Maoist or some shit. All of a sudden, instead of the moderate that drove away big portions of the hyper left during his run for the presidency.
We saw this with Antifa. We saw this with COVIDians. We now see it with gender
COVIDians.
Chaos with pronouns and trying to groom kids in schools and gender affirming care. This is a new world we're in, and we need to make sure our political leaders are up to speed. They're willing to fight in this new world.
They are willing to fight against each other. Good luck with that. The Republican parties is definitely full of fighters.
And from what I've seen from Kevin McCarthy, he's not. He's just not willing to. He is a creature of Washington. He cares about keeping the lobbyists in Washington happy. He's been doing big tech's bidding for years. Jeff Miller, his top lobbyist, has taken millions of dollars from Apple and Amazon, and now Jeff Miller's running. He's the campaign manager for Kevin McCarthy's.
Hang on. The reason you were intern with Gingrich. You were.
By the way, I don't know why this is choppy.
Also, the clerk for Gorsuch, who I think is with Alito, the two leading intellectuals now we have on the court that's driving the court to the right and basically to freedom and liberty. Mm-hmm. So you know where this comes from. You've also taken on the tech oligarchs. You've been sitting there going, hey, look, unless we get, this is not about 230. This is, we have to basically have a trust busting, almost like they had at the turn of the 20th century.
Yeah, except you don't have like one telephone company and that's the point of communication. There are a dozen fucking companies. There is no trust. Otherwise, Truth Social wouldn't even be able to exist. Stupid.
To take the,
not that it really exists. It's kind of, it's a paper bag with a fart in it, but still.
Apart. When Russ Vought calls this a cartel, do you buy that theory of the case that you have an administrative
Yeah, call your own people a cartel.
State that has the things like the oligarchs in Silicon Valley in basically have a piece of ownership of what goes on in Capitol Hill?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen this.
Yeah, you have to say the word absolutely to be on the war room.
Vividly during COVID with, it's between big tech, the pharmaceutical industry, the bureaucrats like the Fauci, the Tony Fauci's and the Deborah Birx, the bureaucrats, the CDC. Absolutely. We saw it very personally. All of us did, how dangerous this is to our personal individual liberties with these COVID lockdowns, with the censorship from big tech. If you dare to,
by the way, this motherfucker thinks he lives in China.
Question these COVID lockdowns, they censored doctors.
Why isn't Bannon in jail right now? Because he hasn't had, like, there's time between his sentencing and when he actually has to carry out his sentence or some shit. And Trump pardoned him.
Scientists who questioned COVID measures.
Yes, absolutely, and outrageous.
And they censored these doctors who ended up being right. And how many?
Yeah, it's true. COVID turned out to be the result of demon sperm.
Many millions of people unnecessarily suffered, even died. How many kids were kept out of school? How many kids are years behind in school? And look, these aren't the rich kids where their moms.
By the way, most of the quote flyover states, most of the Republican states where they have really bad reading numbers, really bad math numbers anyways, they were out for a total of like maybe 6 months. 3 in the end of the year of 2020 and 3 in the beginning of the next year into the 2020-2021 year. And then they all went back. My kid was out for like a month and a half before summer break and then a month and a half. And he went right back after summer. He went right back to school. They wore masks, but he was in school.
Can afford to get them tutors and take care of them through homeschooling. These are oftentimes the poor Hispanic and Black kids who suffered the worst during COVID. Democrats pretend like they...
Yeah, asshole. It's one of the reasons why rural broadband and broadband in general and the removal of lead pipes was a priority in the infrastructure bill, which I'm sure this fucker is against, by the way, to make sure that underserved communities like inner city Black kids and Hispanic kids and white kids and rural kids all have access to the same quality of internet so that they don't have to park outside a fucking Taco Bell or a Starbucks and use their internet to go to school.
They care about minorities. They don't. They use.
Also, never forget, the Republicans who constantly tout that the Department of Education sucks and our schools only turn out drones and that homeschooling is way better, think that their kids specifically, are permanently damaged because they weren't sent to a state school for a couple of months during COVID and had to be homeschooled, which made them stupid and antisocial, apparently. Am I the only person pointing that out? Trump was constantly saying, like, in short, that homeschooling makes you an idiot.
They use them every time to achieve their Marxist political ends. And it's just...
What Marxist political end would that be? What's Marxist about not wanting a kid that might not be killed by a disease to not carry it home and kill his parents or grandparents who might be more susceptible, or take it from home to his teacher who they might give it to and scar him for the rest of his fucking life? Jimmy, you're the reason Mrs. Campbell died. What?
It's sickening, and we need leaders who recognize this and have the backbone to stand up to this.
Which is definitely not Kevin McCarthy, according to this guy. Enjoy.
In this process, you've got three camps. You got the hard nose, and they each have a different reason why they're hard no. With the never Kevin crowd, you've got then the 9 signatories of the counter proposals to McCarthy, and then you got the Lauren Boeberts and the others. As you've seen the process, talk to us about the process. Does the process and what they're proposing not just shifted to the right, but are they informing this? The opposition on the right in the MAGA movement, are they informing what's happening on with all those issues of big tech, big money, the cartel?
The cartel. Okay, first of all, let's just be abundantly clear. Currently, Republicans who always called themselves the party of like success and money and affluence and growth and innovation and greatness and blah 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 are currently in a massive sore loser funk, and essentially the only arrow they have in their quiver is to attack success. Anything that's big apparently is backing Democrats, which is not the fucking case at all. But anything big must be backing Democrats. So Democrats are Marxists, but all of the big corporate industries, including, by the way, they mean fossil fuel companies, are supporting Democrats. What in the world? What are you talking about?
What they've laid out as far as rules and content about debt ceiling and others, is this what was needed to either break the cartel or at least to shift the entire conference to the right?
Absolutely. The speaker.
Absolutely. It's outrageous.
Is such an important job. Look at what happens every year with the omnibus or other spending bills. The speaker goes into a back room with the White House staff and the Senate leadership. They negotiate some horrific backroom deal that blows apart spending, a spending spree, and then he comes back to his.
Nancy Pelosi isn't factoring into this. This has never happened. Maybe he's still talking. In his defense, he's probably still talking about Dennis Hastert, the Republican.
Conference that says you have to vote for this, or the country's going to go off of a cliff, or something bad's going to happen. So,
which is oftentimes the truth.
It's a process completely controlled by the Speaker of the House. If we don't have a Speaker of the House who is red-pilled and committed,
red-pilled, fuck off,
to our populist conservative agenda, that is a big miss, and we don't need to have this big miss. Why do we need Kevin McCarthy? If he's not okay, let's say that it has to go for a few extra hours today. Big deal. Or even
couple extra hours. And then if it has to, at the end of those couple of extra hours, go a couple more hours, and then at the end of those hours, if it has to just stop and try again tomorrow, who gives a shit? Why can't we just keep doing this until 2024?
A few extra days. Big deal. Remember, Kevin McCarthy says that we're not going to be able to pursue our oversight agenda if we don't elect a speaker today. That's nonsense. Remember, he hasn't even picked all the committee chairmen who would do the oversight because he's worried that he'll alienate or anger people who will vote against him if he doesn't.
Right. The people that this asshole supports are demanding speaker seats on committees and subcommittees, or they're not going to fucking vote for him. Of course he hasn't put out a fucking list, dum-dum. Oh, God, this guy's so stupid.
Pick them for committee slots. This is all... these arguments are all disingenuous. The elections matter. We need to elect the right speaker today. Or tomorrow, or the next day.
Yeah,
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
Or the next day, or weeks from now, or a month later, or you know what? Fuck it. Maybe we have a group speaker. Yeah, here's a good idea. Why don't you rotate speakers on a cycle? We vote for these 3 people, and you pick by rock, paper, scissors between McCarthy, MTG, or no, McCarthy, Scalise, and Jordan, and then they just kind of filter through like the fucking corporate commies they are. Jesus Christ.